Oh, I didn't finish the video. That's upsetting. I mean, there's a lot. It just ends that guitar chord. But hello, everybody. 38th favorite dad in the family community, Papa West, Jacob West, here for another exciting episode of TMG Takes the Field. It's exciting because I said it's exciting. That's why. Um, Obviously, we're going to start it off by talking about college football. And I must say, this was a very, very interesting week for college football. Um, we had like 5 upsets. Only one of them was a ranked team beating a ranked team. Um, a lot of mayhem, which is why we love college football. So I'll go ahead and go over how last week finished. So we had a couple games Friday, which, by the way, it's like from now until February, I think we're supposed to have football every day, which is exciting. Not that I'm going to watch football every day, but just a nice little fun tidbit. So we did have a couple games Friday featuring ranked teams. The first one, Oregon taking on Michigan State. Oregon won 31-10, starting to really be that team that we thought that they were going to be. They had that really slow start to the year, but they are definitely looking like what we thought that they were going to look like. And then the other team, UNLV, one of the 25 ranked teams, we're ranked at 25. There's 2 of them right now. They lost to Syracuse 44-41 in overtime. Syracuse kind of an underdog team in my opinion. They're 4-1. So I think that's why they're not ranked, is because with that one loss, especially smaller teams are generally going to be outside. Once you get a little further in, you'll start seeing a lot of teams with 1 or 2 losses ranked. But right now, it's when the season's so young. But Syracuse has definitely been playing a lot better than really anyone thought that they would. I would assume Kyle McCord getting there is a huge bump for that team. And then we go on to our Saturday games. Penn State took on UCLA and won 27-11. Um, Louisville, the 22 ranked seed, took on SMU unranked and lost 34-27. So that's one upset. Ohio State did beat Iowa 35-7. That game was like 3 points away from the over under total points scored, and I had the under, so I was very very scared for most of the last of the game, but thankfully, pretty much the entire last quarter, it was just second and third string players playing, so no offense at the very end of the game. Um, Georgia bounced back from their loss last week, beat Auburn 31-13. Ole Miss beat South Carolina 27-3. Indiana beat Northwestern 41-24. Clemson beat Florida State 29-13. Boise State beat Utah State 62-30. Iowa State beat Baylor 43-21. And then Miami beat California 39-38 in a very exciting game. It was all California at the beginning of the game, and then Miami had an amazing comeback. I was watching it kind of while we were doing game night with Papa. Just had it on the background. It was just like, wait, they're coming back. I saw a stat saying that this was Cam Ward's first game without a passing touchdown in a while. And then within 2 minutes, he had scored a touchdown throwing. So great, great, what they call it, the announcer's curse right there. Now, I did skip a lot of games because we have a lot of upsets to talk about. I did accidentally throw one in there because I didn't decide to talk about upsets last until right now. USC, the number 11 seed, took on Minnesota. Minnesota unranked. USC trying to bounce back. They lost to Michigan. I don't believe they played anyone last week. And then traveled to Minnesota to take on the Golden Gophers. Minnesota also trying to come back from a loss to Michigan. And one team succeeded. Obviously, that was Minnesota. We wouldn't be talking about it if it wasn't. Minnesota winning 24-17. Another crazy upset. Washington taking on Michigan. We just talked about them. Michigan, the number 10 seed. Washington winning 27-17 in a national championship rematch. Arkansas beat the number 4 ranked Tennessee 19-14. One one thing to kind of talk about was Nico Yamayeva. I think that's how you pronounce his name. This was the first time he didn't look good. That he actually made a lot of bad choices. He had some mistakes against Oklahoma. Didn't look good for most of the game, but right at the end, definitely made some great plays to really seal the win for him. But this one, like the end of the game, it was a 5 point game. Instead of throwing for a Hail Mary, he ran a couple yards and ran out of bounds after time expired. Obviously, he's a freshman, though, so hopefully we'll start seeing some of those mistakes not happen. And then possibly the biggest upset since Appalachian State beat Michigan in 2007. Vanderbilt beat Alabama. Alabama, the number one ranked seed, um, hasn't lost to Vanderbilt in like 30 years. They traveled to Nashville, uh, but also Vanderbilt's a better team than people are expecting, or even talking about. But also the one thing to talk about is Vanderbilt scored 40 points against Alabama. Alabama has constantly been touted as one of the best defenses in college football ever. Um, with the loss of Nick Saban, they're definitely fighting some growing pains. And with Kellen DeBoer as an offensive coach, have some growing pains there. So so that defense needs to tighten it up a little bit. But again, one, two, three, four, five upsets, um, four in the top 12. That is the first time in a while that has happened. So, because of this, we have had a lot of changes in our top 25. Texas has moved back up to the number one spot, but right behind them is Ohio State. Oregon bumped up to number three. Penn State's at number four. Georgia actually stayed at number five, but Miami's at number six. Alabama dropped to number seven. Tennessee dropped to number eight. So both still in the top 10. Ole Miss is at number nine. Clemson is at number 10. Iowa State and Notre Dame are both tied at 11th. Again, just with the way they do their scoring. Because there's a tie at 11. We skipped 12 going to 13. LSU. Brigham Young, BYU is at number 14. Texas A&M bumped up to 15. Utah's at 16. Boise State's at 17. Indiana is at 18, along with Oklahoma and Kansas State. Missouri dropped down to 21st. Pittsburgh jumped up to 22nd. Illinois at 23rd. Michigan somehow still ranked is at 24. And then SMU, Southern Methodist University, did jump up to 25. So a lot of fun shakeups there. As far as week 7 goes, like always, we're gonna have some fun, exciting matchups. And we do have a Friday game. Utah is traveling to, I believe they play in Tempe, Arizona, to take on Arizona State. And then for the Saturday matchups, South Carolina's taking on Alabama, Clemson's taking on Wake Forest, Missouri's taking on Massachusetts, Penn State's taking on USC, Stanford's taking on Notre Dame, Pitt's taking on California, Illinois is taking on Purdue, BYU is taking on Arizona, Georgia's taking on Mississippi State, Tennessee's taking on Florida, Iowa State's taking on West Virginia, Kansas State's taking on Colorado, Boise State's taking on Hawaii, and then couple ranked versus ranked matchups. We do have the Red River rivalry. Try to say that 5 times fast. Texas is taking on Oklahoma. First time ever that they are SEC teams playing each other. Ohio State's taking on Oregon in a very fun, exciting matchup with a lot of Big Ten championship implications on the line. And then Ole Miss is taking on LSU in a normal SEC game. They play each other all the time. There's nothing fun and exciting about that. But there are some fun and exciting matchups happening. As far as Heisman race goes, we have had some changes. Cam Ward has dropped a little bit. Let me find it. I had a site pulled up and then the window closed on me. Jackson Dart's another one who fell. Quinn Ewers, who was my favorite going into the year, has missed a couple games. He's expected to be back for Red River. So hopefully he'll start making some steps up. But right now, our Heisman favorite is Ashton Genty. He's the running back for Boise State. So far, 5 games, over 1,000 yards rushing. Um, and then 16 touchdowns. So he has been unreal. Travis Hunter, been in the conversation for a while now. Definitely the fact that he's playing both sides of the ball is very exciting. And Colorado's also played a lot better. They started out the year very, very slow. So he definitely fell because he was not playing well. But Colorado is starting to make a nice little comeback. Jaden Milrow is third. Dylan Gabriel is fourth. Carson Beck is fifth. Um, Quinn Ewers is seventh. So he's not that far back. But again, he's coming back. So hopefully he will be making some nice little steps up to be the actual Heisman winner, because that would make me happy. But that has been our conversation as far as college football goes. I'm going to do some magic, and I'm going to bring in my good friend Jake Tato. Tato, how's it going?
I am doing fantastic. Thank you for having me back. Yay.
Always. I mean, it's better than just talking randomly, because that's how I always did this. Um, but we're going to talk about the games that happened last week, and then we have some big news that happened earlier today. And then we'll talk about games that are coming up this week. So I have to ask, overall thought last week. What's a nice thought, and then we'll talk about the games.
Alrighty. Well, I didn't get to see a lot, doing work things, unfortunately, on Sunday prevents me. And then sometimes I get to the highlights, sometimes I don't. I've been pretty busy. But Caleb Williams continues to improve. Obviously, we'll talk about that game eventually as we break them all down. But yep, I won't have too many thoughts, so this might be a pretty brief episode if it rolls that way. But yeah, just like Caleb getting better every single game, and that's all I needed to see. But we'll talk more about that later.
And yeah, we'll definitely talk about Caleb once we get to that game. But yeah, he's definitely been improving a lot. But as far as my overall thoughts, holy touchdowns, Batman. This was definitely the highest scoring week so far in the NFL season. But this was finally where a lot of teams finally beat off most of the rust and have started performing at kind of the level that we've been expecting them to. So I will kind of give a little brief spoiler as far as our predictions go. We had 3 games separate or different. We were very similar on most of the games. Of the 3, one of us got 2, one of us got 1. I will not say which is which yet. We'll find that out very soon. But what I will say is there might have been ground made. There might have been more ground taken over. We'll have to see here in a second. But as far as this upcoming week, though, I feel very confident in my picks, which means I'm going to go 0-14. It's going to be great. But as far as week 5 goes, we started off with our Thursday game, and oh my goodness, what a game! The Falcons took on the Buccaneers. The Falcons won 36-30. One exciting thing: this was Matt Ryan's what's it called? The Ring of Honor induction, and Kirk Cousins threw for 509 yards, breaking Matt Ryan's record. 4 touchdowns. Drake London, big proponent in the catch game. 12 receptions, 154 yards. And then the other crazy thing is Baker Mayfield only had 180 yards. He had 3 touchdowns, but only 180 yards. This is a very high scoring game. Went to overtime. And then Kadarrell Hodge. Tato, when was the first time you heard that name?
Definitely was a name I knew before that moment. As I typed in chat. Yeah.
Well, it should have been a name you knew before, because he did have a couple catches earlier in the game, and so they said his name a couple times before that.
Fair enough. I was not watching.
Yeah, but no, kind of what Tato and I are alluding to Kadero Hodge, 45-yard touchdown pass. The throw itself was only like 6 yards. So he ran for 40. Broke a couple tackles. Very exciting run to end the game. Very depressed on my end because I needed Bijan to get like 8 more yards receiving. I needed Mike Evans to get 9 more yards receiving. And then I would have had a couple very nice cash outs on some bets. But still, this was a very exciting game to start off a very exciting week. This was our first difference. I had the Falcons winning. Tato had the Buccaneers. So to start off the week, I'm up 0 and I'm up 1. But again, that might change at the end of this week. It might be the same. We'll have to see. Next game we have is the London game. The Vikings taking on the Jets. Technically no home team, while the Vikings were in home uniforms. But one thing to really talk about with this game is it was 17-7 at the end of the first half. The Vikings were dominating for a majority of the game, and then Aaron Rodgers came back. Made it got 20-17, where they were just down by a field goal. Minnesota was able to kick a field goal right towards the end of the game, and then New York was making a drive. It wasn't until like with 20 seconds left on the clock, Aaron Rodgers did throw a game-ending interception, but really did a decent job of trying to bring that team back. The biggest thing is Aaron Jones did leave with an injury in the second quarter. So that was definitely a huge miss on the Vikings end. You could definitely tell, especially with that second half, they had to rely more on the throw, and that Jets pass defense was just doing too good to really keep them or Minnesota from keeping their lead. It's like whoever's in charge of that defense is doing a great job and should have a job for a while, right?
I believe so.
Right? Yeah, we'll talk about that later. Aaron Rodgers, 244 yards, 2 touchdowns, did throw 3 interceptions. Again, that one game-ending one. Sam Darnold, 179 yards and an interception. So Darnold definitely took a step back from what he had been doing. Not a lot as far as offense goes for the Vikings, but again, just enough to get the win. But any extra thoughts on that one, Tato?
Sam Darnold's gonna turn into a pumpkin eventually, man. God damn it. One day.
I mean, he definitely had a pretty pumpkin game today.
Yeah.
Didn't break the 180-yard milestone, no touchdowns, and an interception. So definitely is starting to get there. That Minnesota defense is just scary good right now.
Yeah, it is. It's bananas. Shout outs.
This is one where we were the same. We have this one and the one I'm about to talk about. We're the same. Then the next one's different. But we have our first as far as the Sunday afternoon games, the 1 o'clock game, and another overtime game. The Ravens beat the Bengals 41-38. Very exciting divisional matchup here. Both team records aside, both teams have actually been playing very well this year, and it was very apparent in this game. Looking at records, both teams have made very bad mistakes, which almost cost the Ravens. Lamar Jackson having a fumble kind of at the 50-yard line in overtime, giving the Bengals the ball back, but not able to do anything offensively. Evan McPherson missed a field goal. And then the Ravens, I believe Derrick Henry had a great run to get him obviously 14 yards away. And then they just were like, hey, we can waste time or we're just going to go kick a field goal, win the game. We're going to kick a field goal, win the game. Lamar Jackson, 348 yards, 4 touchdowns. Joe Burrow, 392 yards and 5 touchdowns. So both have been playing very well, despite what records are showing. But Tato, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, I happened to be walking by to fill my water bottle right when Justin Tucker banged the chip shot at the end. And I was just like, okay, well, that's how that's going to happen. So, hey, I got to watch some football for 2 seconds. Yeah.
Yeah, that's always exciting. Next game we have the Colts traveling to Jacksonville. Jacksonville seeking their first win. The Colts without their starting quarterback, but they had a starting quarterback in Joe Flacco. The Jaguars did pull up the kind of upset. They were 3-point favorites. They won by 3, 37-34. Um, biggest biggest things to call out. Joe Flacco, 359 yards, 3 touchdowns. Trevor Lawrence, 371 yards and 2 touchdowns. And then Tank Bigsby, 101 yards, 2 touchdowns, but really 2 massive touchdown runs. One a 65 yarder. And then he had one that was like 20 something yards, but he fumbled it on like the 2-yard line. But the ball went forward into the end zone and he picked it up in the end zone. So it's like technically a 3-yard fumble recovery, but he had a very good run right before that. And then Brian Thomas Jr., 122 yards and a touchdown receiving. Another kind of one team making a comeback. The Colts were able to put up 14 points in a matter of 2 minutes to tie it up at 34. And then with 17 seconds left, the Jaguars did kick that game-winning field goal to win the game, get their first win. Tato, was this one that you caught any of?
Did not catch it, but I do have some thoughts on it because obviously next week going on. I'm happy to see the Jaguars get a win because I didn't want to face them 0-5, just fucking hungry for that first W. They can fade back into obscurity. They got their W.
That is true. This is one that we were separate on. You had the Colts, I had the Jags winning. So I am the one who had the 2-1 advantage as far as our differences go. But no, definitely a very fun, exciting game, especially towards the end. And then talking about fun and exciting games, the Dolphins beat the Patriots 15-10. This was one that we had wrong. We both picked the Patriots winning, but really, Alec Ingold 3-yard touchdown run with 5 minutes left in the game. Patriots trying to get that win. They had a touchdown called back. I don't remember exactly why, because he looked in. I don't remember if they were like, no, he was out of bounds, or if there's like something else causing it to be an incomplete pass. But then they had like 4 other shots with like 20 yards to go and unable to do it. Biggest news out of this game is this was Jacoby Brissett's last start for who knows how long. They did say afterwards that Drake May will be starting for the Patriots for the foreseeable future. I'm not going to necessarily say this is a Bryce Young, Andy Dalton scenario. I do think this is they're actually giving Drake May the reins. Maybe if they lose like the next 10 games, they go on a really bad losing streak, or they're going to go on a really bad losing streak. Let's be honest here. But maybe towards the end of the year, they give Jacoby Brissett the reins back just to kind of keep Drake May healthy. I don't know if that's what they do. That's probably what I would do. But as of right now, Drake May is going to be your starting quarterback in New England. But Tato, any other thoughts?
Yeah, good luck to the kid.
Yeah. We've seen you throw four completions for 8 tries for 22 yards. That's exciting numbers, right? Next game, we have the Browns traveling to Landover, Maryland to take on the Washington Commanders. We've started seeing Jaden Daniels not be a Superman, but he did enough to get them a nice win. The Commanders won 34-13. Jaden Daniels, 238 yards, 1 touchdown, 1 interception, 82 yards running. And then Terry McLaurin, 112 yards receiving. But any thoughts on this one, Tato?
I did see the touchdown that Jaden threw. It looked really nice. It was a pretty solid dot.
Yeah, and it's one of those where he's not looking bad, but he's definitely starting to look like a normal rookie quarterback now. We had those first couple games where he was just electric. Now he's starting to slow down. So I do think it's interesting that we're seeing Caleb starting to play a lot better, and then Jaden starting to come a little bit more down to earth. So I am excited to see if this trend continues, what it's going to mean kind of towards the end of the season, because I do think they both will have very good rookie years. But we'll talk about that later on down. And obviously, I want Jane Daniels to fail because he plays my Eagles. I don't want him to succeed because if he succeeds, my Eagles don't succeed. Next game, we have the Bills traveling to Houston to take on the Texans. The Texans winning with a game-winning field goal, 23-20. Josh Allen, 131 yards, 1 touchdown, possibly a concussion, but he got to keep playing. We'll talk about that later. James Cook, 82 yards and a touchdown. Keon Coleman getting Josh Allen's touchdown. And then CJ Stroud, 331 yards and a touchdown. Cam Akers coming out of nowhere for 42 yards. But then Stephon Diggs, kind of a little revenge game, did manage to get 82 yards. Did not score in that matchup. But when you have Nico Collins getting a 67-yard touchdown pass out of nowhere, it's really hard to score when you have him on the other side. The Bills did try to mount a comeback again, getting tying up the game right at the end, but some very questionable calls, especially on their last drive, which put the Texans in a very good spot. And again, getting a 59-yard field goal to win the game. I'm not going to say Sean McDermott's a horrible coach. I'm just going to say he's not the best decision maker out there. Tato, what are your thoughts on this one?
Old Billy Buffalo coach.
All right. And the next, I imagine you're going to have a lot to talk about this one. We had the Bears taking on the Panthers. Bears demolish 36-10. Caleb Williams, 304 yards, 2 touchdowns. DeAndre Swift, 73 yards and a touchdown. DJ Moore, 105 yards, and then catching both of those touchdowns. Really, the only performance to talk about on Carolina's side, Chuba Hubbard, 97 yards and a touchdown. I don't know if Jay picked him up in our league, but I made the comment. I'm like, I'd probably pick him up if I were you. Jay, if you did pick him up, you're welcome because he only person on the team to have a good game. But definitely would have gotten you points in fantasy. But Tato, talk to me about this one.
Yep. So I wasn't afraid really of Carolina winning at all. What I was afraid of, and this is, I had this thought, and then I heard some other people say it as well, but I'll throw it out. I was afraid of the Bears winning ugly. That was my main fear, but that didn't happen. Obviously, dominating win as it should have been in this situation. What's your favorite Bill Murray movie?
My favorite Bill Murray movie.
Yeah.
That's a loaded question. I love Bill Murray. I have to choose one.
Me too. He should stay in at right guard for the Bears. Shout out that guy forming a cohesive offensive line for the first time.
Yes.
Not allowing, I don't believe he allowed too much action. And Caleb moving around with the offensive line and stuff like that. Finally starting to see those throws he makes consistently in college come to the NFL. And like I said, just improvements every single week out of Caleb, and that is fantastic to see. That's all I really wanted to see this season, and the wins coming with it are extra nice and stuff. So
yeah, and I mean we talked about it last week. That was really the first game that offensive line looked competent. You didn't have that picture of Caleb Williams and 4 defensive linemen right in his face with all of his linemen lying down on the ground. You didn't have that last week, and then they really succeeded again this week. I mean, it is the Carolina Panthers, so I wouldn't read too much into it. But at the same time, it's the NFL, and these guys get paid millions of dollars because these guys are good at what they do, for the most part. So, I mean, whenever you can just really have your way with an NFL team, doesn't matter if they're the best team or the worst team. It's definitely something hard to do. But Caleb has definitely been looking a lot better. and so it's exciting to see. It's exciting to see him succeed up until he plays the Eagles, and then I hope he dies. Not really dies, but tears an Achilles. We'll go with that. That works. Next game, we have the Raiders traveling to Denver to take on the Broncos. Broncos kind of manhandled them 34-18. We're not going to have a 60-yard performance from Bo Nix. He did get 206 yards and 2 touchdowns throwing. I know at least 1 running. Gardner Minshew, 2 interceptions. That was really, for me, the highlight is Bo Nix wasn't really doing a lot as far as getting them to score. He was just getting some good yards and then allowing his running backs or even getting in position for Will Lutz to kick a field goal. But that defense, Patrick Surtain, I believe, had like 2 interceptions, 1 100-yard pick 6. And they intercepted him so much that Gardner Minshew was benched in the 4th quarter for Aiden O'Connell. So definitely still some quarterback controversy there. Last time this happened, Anthony Pierce was asked who's going to be quarterback going into the next game. He's like, "Oh, I'll ask my team." So probably some very similar words are going to be said this week. We'll see what the team says. But one thing, and I know a lot of the awards go to quarterbacks, especially MVP and Offensive Rookie of the Year. But if you have somebody that if you want to give the Offensive Rookie of the Year to somebody who is not a quarterback, Brock Bowers. This was I was very intrigued and confused on this pick when the Raiders made it because they just picked up Michael Mayer the year before. But oh my goodness, he's like the only person Gardner can throw to. 8 receptions, 97 yards, and 1 of those touchdowns. He has been having a great career, and especially if Las Vegas makes some moves, getting rid of one of their perennial best wide receivers in the game, look for him to have a lot more targets and hopefully have a good, successful year. I really like it when tight ends have good careers. I like tight ends.
Yeah, me too.
All right, Tato, any other thoughts on this one?
Nope.
Okay. Next we have the Cardinals and the 49ers. I quit watching this game, and then I looked at the box score, and I'm like, wait, how? At one point, the 49ers were up 23-10. And then the Cardinals just took over at the second half, managing to get that pretty much get rid of that lead. They were up they were down 21-23, and then with 1:37 left, they did kick that game-winning field goal. Biggest thing to talk about with this, Brock Purdy throwing 2 interceptions, 244 yards, and then Kyler Murray 195 yards and a touchdown. But also Marvin Harrison Jr., not the Cardinals' leading receiver. Doesn't happen since week 1. Any other thoughts on this one, Tato?
I do not. I will also be right back. Carry on.
Okay. I will carry on then. Yeah, no, definitely. And this isn't the first time we've seen the 49ers just pretty much throw away a win. A couple of weeks ago when they played the Rams, they were up pretty big towards the end of the game and let the Rams come back. So maybe this team has some holes that we're not seeing. I know one big injury that we did see was Jake Moody, their kicker. Might be saying, Papa, what do you mean a kicker getting hurt? When it's like 4th and 8, and you're like, oh, I can't kick a field goal, I have to go for it. That is huge. I don't know if that led to anything as far as the 49ers not getting that win, but it could. Next, we have the Packers and the Rams. Green Bay was traveling to Los Angeles this week, but let's be honest, there's no home team in Los Angeles. That's just an extra traveling home game for most of those away teams. Green Bay did get the win 24-19, although it looked like Matt Stafford was going to be clutch Matt Stafford and get a comeback win. But Jordan Love finally looking like what we've been expecting him all year. Granted, he's been out for a couple weeks, but last year he looked good for parts, but looked hurt for a lot of the game. This game, 224 yards, 2 touchdowns. Josh Jacobs, 73 yards and a touchdown. But on Williams, 102 yards and a touchdown. So the Rams definitely have a scary run game. Tato, any thoughts on this one?
FGB. No, NFC North, best division in football by a wide margin at this point. Bears technically the bottom of the division, where they would be the top of like 4 other divisions technically. I think. Yeah, science and math, man. Shout out. Black and blue football. Back.
All right. The last of the afternoon games, we had the Giants traveling to Seattle. And I must say, at the end of the first quarter, Seattle had just scored that 102-yard fumble recovery. I thought this game was going to be all Seattle before the game even started. I thought it was going to be all Seattle. And after the first quarter, I was shut up very quickly. The Giants, I don't know how they didn't have Malik Neighbors, they didn't have Devin Singletary, but somehow this team was able to beat the Seahawks 29-20. And it was close at times, but it was never really close. Or any thoughts on this one, Tato?
Like on any given Sunday, right? That's
Yeah.
the NFL. Yeah, I did not. I wasn't aware of this. I'm surprised this didn't come under my radar. I did not see Jay's. Jay didn't freak out about it, so I didn't. Or I missed Jay freaking out about it.
Yeah.
That's probably what happened.
He freaked out about that fumble recovery. He's like, dude, if this stands, this is going to be huge. And I made the comment, I'm like, dude, you're playing the Giants. It's not huge.
That.
Yeah, and then he didn't say anything, which granted, if I was getting embarrassed,
the silence should have spoken volumes now that I think about it.
You're not wrong there. All right. And then we had the Sunday night game. The game was delayed due to weather. But I was kind of surprised, but also at the same time, not really. I didn't think there'd be a lot of scoring in this game, and there really wasn't a lot of scoring. But the Cowboys did win 20-17. And because we love crazy stats, you've probably seen the stats all across your Facebook feed. Dak Prescott does become the first player in history to throw 2 touchdowns on 2 separate days for the same game. Also a stat you won't see because that's the way the news works. Dak Prescott becomes the first player to throw 2 interceptions on 2 separate days for the same game. But he did have 352 yards, 2 touchdowns, 2 interceptions. Jalen Tolbert was his leading receiver with 87 yards. And so one thing I do have to say is Dak was definitely fighting, or definitely didn't have most of his team there. Brandon Cooks, big offensive weapon, was injured. And then a lot of their defense has been hurt too. Micah Parsons and DeMarcus Lawrence were both out. So it was definitely a little bit of respect to throw his way for getting the win there, but not enough for me to actually respect the man because he played the Steelers. Like, let's be honest, we're surprised the Steelers have won 3 games so far. That shouldn't tell you that team's good. Tato, any thoughts on this one?
Yeah, definitely a sloppy battle. I heard some whispers of Russ Wilson's name, and I'm like, okay, let's calm the fuck down.
Justin Fields had to sit out a play due to an injury, and then Kyle Allen came out. And so I'm in an NFC East trash talk group, and a lot of people are like, why isn't Russell out there? It's like, dude, he's inactive, but he's suited up. Okay, he's inactive because he's the 3rd quarterback.
Yeah, he's wearing a suit.
Emergency quarterback. Yeah. It's like, I don't think the emergency quarterback has to suit up. That's just a Russell Wilson thing, I guess.
Yeah, that's definitely I feel like some raw shit. Anyway.
Yeah. All right. And then as far as the Monday night game goes, kind of exciting. But we had the Chiefs taking on the Saints. There was an amazing interception return for like 45 yards. by a Saints defensive lineman whose name is escaping me right now.
No, there
Dude
wasn't.
caught it in the end zone and then took off running. He's like, stop, go, go, go.
The no, go. You love it.
Yes. It's always fun when that happens. They did the same thing on a kick return. Guy caught it in the end zone, stopped, took a step forward, stopped, and then started going. It's like, stop. Okay, now go. But he didn't do anything. So it was a really bad mistake there. But Derek Carr didn't look great. 165 yards, 2 touchdowns. Kamara couldn't do anything. 26 yards running. Kareem Hunt had more carries than Alvin Kamara had rushing yards. He had 27 carries, 102 yards. This is the best we've seen Kareem Hunt play since he was a Chief. So it's kind of exciting to see him pretty much back to form. But this was very much one team playing very well, one team not doing super well, but then kind of coming back, but not enough to really do anything. The Chiefs were victorious 26-13. And this was where you kind of gained a little bit of ground on me. You had the Chiefs, I had the Saints. But again, because I had two wins before that, didn't really make much ground. But any thoughts on this one, Tato?
Yeah, I still think the Chiefs are the best team in football, though their wins haven't been as decisive as the Vikings and stuff. I saw the NFL drop their power rankings and they have the Vikings at 1, which was a little bit surprising to me. But hey, it is what it is. We'll see what happens. The Vikings defense is phenomenal, so I'll give them that. But yeah, Chiefs I still think are the best team in football, even though their wins haven't been super ass whooping.
I think if you look at names and players, the Chiefs are the best team. Because I mean, two-time Super Bowl champs going for that three-peat. It's hard to go against them. But if you look at the season so far, I do think that the Vikings have had a better season. So I'd put them ahead, but if they were to play each other, I don't know who would come out with the win on that one. I think just by numbers, by pure stats, and by film, I would say the Vikings are the better team. But I mean, just looking at that quarterback, it's hard to go against the Chiefs. I definitely understand that. But after this week, I finished the week at 8-6. You are at 7-7, which brings our overall records. I'm at 45-33. You're at 40-39. So I have a nice 5-game lead over you. We'll see. We'll see if it stands after next week. But before we get into next week, couple big news happening over the weekend. Obviously, we talked about the first one. Drake May is going to be your starting quarterback for the New England Patriots. Other thing is Derek Carr is going to be out probably for a couple of weeks. So Spencer Rattler might be making the start for New Orleans, which would mean there'd be 5 rookie quarterbacks starting. We'll have to see later on who they decide to make the start in New Orleans. But other news, the Philadelphia Eagles released Devin White today. I was very, very mad about that because I was very excited about signing him. Really good leader on defense, really good linebacker, something we struggled with, but he hasn't played yet. So I don't know if there's some dissension in the locker room that he's causing, or if we're trying to make some cap space to make a play at a Hassan Reddick to bring him back to Philly. I don't know exactly. But Tater, what are your thoughts on the Eagles releasing Devin White?
I was not aware of that one, not super familiar with the player. I have been hoping that the Bears would be in that Hassan Reddick market, sort of. I'm kind of on the fence about it. I think I would like to see it at this point. But also the Bears defense is kind of clicking nice enough as it is. So I would be fine if it didn't go either. It's not like the Bears defense is missing that piece seemingly. Javon Dexter, like I mentioned last week, continues to grow as the second option on that D line. So
All right, and other breaking news that also happened today. My pick for Coach of the Year, Robert Saleh, um, definitely not going to be Coach of the Year because he's not going to be coaching for the rest of the year. Well, he might coach for the rest of the year. We'll have to see, but no longer for the Jets. After their loss to Minnesota, they are releasing Robert Saleh, which I think is the worst move you can make. Um, Robert Saleh is a very big defensive coach. Before he coached the Jets, he was the defensive coordinator for San Francisco. That defense was scary when he was in control of it. And the only thing the Jets have been doing good this year is their defense, which he has been running. Um, Very interesting move there. But also at the same point, when you're a coach with a lot of expectations, when you're at 2-3 in the first 5 weeks, it's hard to say you're doing a decent job. Granted, I think a lot of that has everything to do with the person behind center. Um, you show up to off season stuff whenever because you haven't really played with these guys before. But we don't usually see a lot of firings this early in the
Yeah,
season. I've looked it up. We've only seen like four.
handful,
Frank
like week 4s, 1-3. Yeah,
Yeah. Uh, Frank Reich obviously was released by the Colts at week 8, which that was very soon in a lot of people's minds. Jay Gruden for Washington was fired after week 5. Dennis Allen coached the Raiders at one point, and he was released in week 4.
yeah.
And there were a couple others, but for some reason I can't. I when I took a picture, I did it to where it's supposed to like scroll down a little bit further, and it didn't. There were a couple other guys on there. One who was fired in week 4, one who was fired in week 3. I don't remember who it is off the top of my head, but very dumb move for the Jets.
Yeah,
Say
it's
the
wild that 2-3 to fire a coach is kind of not like at 0-5, maybe that week 5 would be
Yeah,
okay. But even then, like I can't remember a ton of 0-5 coaches getting the boot either. It's usually a mid-season thing at best. So
yeah, and that's it.
wild.
It's usually towards the end of the season, definitely after the halfway point or week 14, week 15, where your team has nothing left to play for, no chance to do anything. Um, yeah, but
Yeah, I'm not gonna go full conspiracy. Aaron is pulling the strings theory, but like he probably had a non-zero amount to do with it. Like, because that's a very non-Woody Johnson move either. He's never fired a coach mid-season, so um, yeah,
so I'm in the exact opposite. I think Aaron has a lot to do with this. Um, it's it's one of those where any other quarterback doesn't make that call when you have Aaron Rodgers, who is 40 years old, um, at the tail end of his career and trying to get that one last Super Bowl run. Um, he's definitely been in the ears of owners. The president of the Packers, his name's escaping me right now, was kind of sick. Yeah, Gunter Kuntz was kind of saying like,
but he's like a guy in charge there for
yeah,
sure.
yeah, he's not the owner because the Packers don't have an owner, but he's definitely like high up on there. Um, he was pretty much saying he's like, dude, we're done with Rodgers when Rodgers was doing his darkness retreat, very similar to what they did with Favre. He retired, he comes back, and they're like, no, not with us. We're moving on.
Or watch, God,
Yes.
that's far watch.
Uh, but I definitely think he was at least in the ear of Woody Johnson because when you have Aaron Rodgers, you kind of let him do his thing. It's exactly what they did before they traded for him. He was like, "You need this player, you need this player, and you need oh, what's that coach's name? Their offensive coordinator, Hackett." It's like you need him, and they did. They followed all of his demands to a T. I definitely I don't think he'll ever say he had something to do with it, but I think he had something to do with it, and it might have just been like a phone call of, I can't stand this coach. I don't expect you to do anything, but I just want to let you know I'm not a fan of him right now. And then Woody Johnson actually took it to ear. But again, we'll probably never know like the actual truth behind it. I can't remember the name
We'll
of
get
the
it on Netflix in 20 years, but
yes. It'll be the Aaron Rodgers roast.
there it is.
Where it'll actually come out. But I know that they have an interim coach. I can't think of his name right now. Not Nathaniel Hackett. I was kind of interested to hear that. But I picked him to win the Super Bowl. I'm definitely going to take that back right now. They're not going to the Super Bowl. They're not going to make the playoffs. That's rough. That is rough. But all right, Tato, are you ready to go into Week 6 predictions?
Yeah, most def.
All right. So for our Thursday night game, the San Francisco 49ers are traveling to Seattle to take on the Seahawks. Right now, the 49ers are 3.5-point favorites. As far as injuries go, Jake Moody, their kicker, is out. And then Talanoa Huafunga, one of the best safeties in the game, is also out. A couple questionables: George Kittle, Chris Conley, Travarius Ward. And then the Seahawks are kind of healthy. Not a lot of big name injuries like what the 49ers have. I was going back and forth, which for the first game to go back and forth doesn't look good for the week. But then I started doing like some critical thinking. I was like, well, yes, the Seahawks looked horrible against the Giants. Maybe they were looking past the Giants and like getting ready for San Francisco. And San Francisco twice now has had 2 really good leads and blown them in the fourth quarter. I can't trust that. I have to go with the Seahawks here.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping I was going to be able to sneak this one on you, but I also have Seahawks.
All right. No sneaking. You little sneaky sneak.
I like being a sneaky sneak.
All right. Next, we are traveling to London again. The Jaguars, home away from home for them, are taking on the Bears. Right now, the Bears are 2-point favorites. Not a lot as far as injuries go that I'm seeing. Both teams pretty healthy too. Potato, who is your pick on this one?
I can't recall the last time I've been like, yeah, I'll take the Bears and the points. But yeah, Bears all the way on this one. Like I said, I'm glad the Jags got that cheeky win in. And it should be a jolly good time for Caleb in old England. All right. Well, so
the Jags, I mean, again, this is home away from home for them. So this is essentially a home game. And I do have to say, the Jaguars are going to get a win in London next week. This week, they are not. I do have the Bears winning as well. Next, we have the first of the 1:00 games. The Browns are traveling to Philadelphia to take on the Eagles. The Eagles having that week of rest, taking on a Browns team that has really looked very bad. One thing to note, A.J. Brown should be playing. He's been having that hamstring injury he's been fighting. Devontae Smith, I don't think has quite cleared concussion protocol, but he should be there. So Jalen Hurts will have offensive weapons for this game. I'm going to go ahead and go first. Like I said last week or week before, I don't remember. You hate that week 5 bye week, but when your team is playing pretty bad and for the first 4 weeks and already suffering some pretty bad injuries, man, that week 5 bye week sounds really good. I do think that this came pretty much at a really good time for the Eagles, kind of enough to reset a little bit. And it's like, hey, let's just focus. Let's play the rest of the season out like it's a brand new season, because they can very easily win this division. I don't care about the Washington Commanders. I don't care that they're playing great. The Eagles can still beat that team very easily. I have the Eagles turning their season around starting Sunday.
Yeah, I got Eagles as well. They're still 3-2, right? Or 3-1, or
They're
they're 2-2.
2-2. Yep.
Okay, yeah, no, I don't think that's too much of a turnaround, but yeah, no, Eagles. I think it's a pretty handy victory on their part.
Yeah, they're 2-2, but they've only had one really good game so far. That second win coming against the Saints, which was a slobber knocker of a game. Next, we have the Texans traveling to New England to take on the Patriots. Right now, the Texans are 7.5-point favorites. I'm going first on, or you're going first on this one.
Yep, I got Texans here. Good. I mean, Drake. It's a rough shake for Drake May's first start on the Texans defense. Will Anderson bearing down on him and stuff like that. Much like I said for Caleb, it wasn't going to be a fun time, and it was not a fun time for Caleb. I cannot imagine Drake May fares any better in his first game than Caleb did in his second.
Yeah, yeah. Hear me out. Hear me out. Drake May gets his NFL debut against the Jaguars next week in London. That would make better sense. Obviously, that the Patriots have been playing very bad so far. They were lucky to get that win against Cincinnati. Should have gotten a win last week, but hey, you can't win them all, right? Yeah, no, they've definitely have not been playing all that well. Houston, on the other hand, has been rolling outside of one game, which really has been against the best defense in the NFL right now. I think 7.5 points is generous. I think the Texans win by 3 scores at least. All right, next we have I know this game like has a name to it. I just don't remember what it is. But the Commanders are traveling to Baltimore to take on the Ravens. Right now, the Ravens are 6.5-point favorites. I'm going first on this one. I think this is the toughest defense Jaden Daniels has played. We have definitely seen him throw he's thrown 2 interceptions in the last 2 games. He's definitely started to make some really bad choices. I think he has a multiple interception game this week. And while yes, we do see some really great plays from him, he's going to make some rookie mistakes in this game, and the Ravens are going to get the win.
Yep, nail on the head. I echo your sentiments completely, Ravens.
All right. Next, we have the Cardinals traveling to Green Bay to take on the Packers. Packers are 5-point favorites. Tato, who do you have?
I have the Packers here. I hope I'm wrong as usual. As always, pains me to pick them. FGB.
Yeah. Well, I hope you're right because I also have the Packers. Josh Jacobs has looked electric in that run game, and then Jordan Love has, especially this last week, has definitely been playing at the level that we've expected him to play all season. I do kind of think this game's gonna be a little bit closer than people are talking about. Carolina has proven that they are a very tough team to put away. Even when they played the Commanders, like that score wasn't close, but they were playing very close. So I think this will be one of those higher scoring games. It's probably one of the most viewed games as far as NFL Red Zone goes. But I do have the Packers pulling out the win. Next, we are traveling to New Orleans. The Buccaneers are taking on the Saints. Right now, the Buccaneers are 3.5-point favorites. I'm going first on this one. As of right now, Derek Carr is not playing. He's listed as questionable, but from everything I've heard, he's going to be out at least 3 weeks.
Yeah.
Regardless of who is playing at quarterback, the Buccaneers are pissed off because they had a fantastic game Thursday and did not get the win. I feel sorry for whoever this Buccaneers team is playing this week. It just so happens to be the Saints. I have the Buccaneers winning.
Yep, likewise, Buccaneers, big chip on the shoulder. They're definitely going to go tear it up. Shoot some
All
butter
right.
New Orleans up there. What's up, Doc?
All right, last of the 1 o'clock games. The Colts are traveling to Tennessee to take on the Titans in an AFC South divisional matchup. Right now, the Colts are favored by 1 point, so it is basically a pick 'em. Potato, pick 'em.
Yep, pretty much a coin flip, like you said here, and my coin happened to land on Colts.
All right. One thing I didn't mention is Will Levis is still questionable. They just had that bye week. So I mean a good time to get hurt, I guess, because you do have that full week to kind of heal up. And then Jonathan Taylor and Anthony Richardson both are questionable too. But regardless of who's playing, um, the Colts defense isn't great by any means, but it's a lot better than people talk about. And if Jonathan Taylor plays, that run game's electric. If he's not playing, Trey Sermon is a really good backup. And regardless of who that quarterback is, if it's Anthony Richardson, he's not as stupid as Will Levis. Like he'll make some bad plays, but not as bad as Will Levis. But if he's still hurt, they have Joe Flacco, who has 2 games tore it up. They weren't successful, but they almost got the win last week against the Jags. I have the Colts winning this game as well. All right, our first of our almost evening games. The Chargers are traveling to Denver to take on the Broncos. Right now, the Chargers are 2.5 point favorites, coming off of that stupid Week 5 bye. I have the Chargers winning this one. Again, they've had that much needed rest. Derwin James is coming back after that stupid suspension, which just so happened to be when they played the Chiefs. I think the defense really embarrasses Bo Nix, makes him look like the trash like that he's always been. And then Justin Herbert, J.K. Dobbins, and Quentin Johnston. Oh my goodness, he's been playing very well so far. I think the Chargers do get the win, and this is going to be the first week that both Harbaugh brothers get a win on the same day.
Oh man, I guess I hadn't noticed that. I hadn't yet to happen. Yeah, I have the Chargers as well.
Yep. So last week, there was like Tuesday. Tuesday, I was listening to Rich Eisen, and he was going over like the crazy stats so far. Like one was the Commanders have more. What was it? More punts than incompletions, or more touchdown drives than incompletions. And then the other crazy fact was a Harbaugh has won every single week, but 2 Harbaughs have not won on the same exact week because the Chargers started 2-0 and then lost 2 straight. The Ravens started 0-2 and then have won 2 straight. And then last week or Sunday, the Chargers were off, but the Ravens still got the win. So they couldn't have both won that game. Little interesting because people put a stat on everything.
I love it.
With this whole Dak Prescott scoring a touchdown on 2 separate days for the same game, just because the NFL canceled that game last year with the Bengals and Bills, not last year before.
Yeah.
Had they not have canceled that game, had they have postponed it, then Joe Burrow and Josh Allen would have both. Actually, I don't think anyone had scored at that point. Never mind. I'm going to shut up now. We have the Steelers taking on the Raiders in Las Vegas. Right now, the Steelers are 2.5 point favorites, but both teams kind of trying to get a nice little, trying to turn it around, have had some bad luck. Steelers, 2 straight losses after that very surprising win, and then the Raiders are just the Raiders. But Tato, tell me who's winning this.
I'm going to go with the team that presumably knows who their starting quarterback is. I'm taking the Steelers.
I don't know who that is.
Yeah, that's the unfortunate thing. Yeah, no. I'm going to go Justin Fields and the Steelers.
I mean, 2 straight losses. There might be some conversation in there of maybe now we pulled the trigger. I am kind of in that same boat. I think the Steelers do kind of turn it around. There's just a lot of dissension in the Raiders locker room right now, especially with this the Devontae Adams news, and then benching Gardner Minshew for Aiden O'Connell. Um, if there's going to be quarterback controversy there, it's definitely not good for the locker room. To add on to this whole Devontae Adams, and then rumor is that if Devontae goes, they're going to try to do a blockbuster trade to trade Devontae and Max Crosby. I don't know if that's true or not. That'd be horrible if it happened. But talk about a team automatically being Super Bowl favorites if they pull that off. But regardless, I do think the Steelers get the turnaround they've been looking for and get the win here. Next, we have a rematch from a very controversial game last year. The Lions are traveling to Dallas to take on the Cowboys. Right now, the Lions are 3.5-point favorites, even though it's in Dallas. But again, Lions just came off a bye week. Cowboys coming off pretty sloppy performance. And there's no telling if Micah Parsons will play this week, as he is still fighting that leg injury. I think DeMarcus Lawrence should be in, but I haven't really heard much as far as that goes. But regardless, I do think the Lions are well rested, and the Lions are just going to bite off kneecaps whenever they want to. Give me the Lions. And Aiden Hutchinson is going to eat Dak Prescott alive. It's going to happen.
Yep, that's what I'm thinking too, Lions.
All right. 3 more games. Let's see if we have a difference in these last 3, as we have not had one yet. The last of the 4:00 games, the Falcons are traveling to Carolina to take on the Panthers in an NFC South matchup rivalry. Right now, the Falcons are 6-point favorites. Tato, you're going first on this one.
Falcons. What's to say? Go ahead.
Not a lot. I will say if the Falcons were 5-0 or 4-1, I could definitely see this as a trap game. But because they've had a slower start than most people have thought, I do think that they start taking a lot of these games a lot more seriously and actually like can't look past anybody. We have to look at the people we're playing. And Kirk Cousins is just on a revenge tour right now. He's proven he's like, this is why I was the most sought after free agent this offseason. So I have the Falcons kind of embarrassing the Panthers. And then for some reason, our Sunday night game, the Cincinnati Bengals are traveling to New Jersey to take on the New York Giants. Why this is our Sunday night game, I don't know. Why this was ever in the conversation to be our Sunday night game, I don't know. But one stat that a lot of people aren't talking about, well, yes, the Bengals are 1-4. Joe Burrow has had 1,370 yards, 12 touchdowns, and only 2 interceptions. So this Bengals offense has been electric. Their defense, on the other hand, has had a lot of questions on there. But I don't trust Daniel Jones enough to say, man, this team's dangerous. I don't trust him enough. I think the Bengals walk out of the Meadowlands with victorious.
Yeah, the Giants and the Panthers sitting at 31-32, however you want to split it, the way I see it. Bengals.
The only way like I see the Giants having a chance is if Malik Neighbors plays, and a lot of people are saying he's not going to. Because definitely having multiple wide receiver options out there could be scary for that Bengals secondary. But even if he plays, I don't see it. I think the Bengals offense is too good. As we move on to to Monday night, the Buffalo Bills are taking on the New York Jets. Right now, the Bills are 2.5-point favorites, but this is another week that the Jets and Giants both have home games. Tato, who is your pick and why?
The Bills. I just think the Jets are in a bit of a chaos spiral, unless the only thing is if the Jets spike that, first win kind of thing, like that kind of tends to happen after a coach gets fired, a win gets spiked from time to time, but I'm not seeing it happening on this one, Bills.
Okay. So Tata, wouldn't it be crazy if both week 2 and week 6 we had the exact same picks the whole
It would be
time?
wild.
It would be so wild. Thankfully, I did not pick the Bills to win Monday Night Football. I have the Jets. I know it sounds crazy. The Bills have not been good defensively. And while yes, they're 3-2, their 3 wins haven't been great wins. You look at that whole game against the Texans. They had to come back to make it a game. They were not looking good for the most part. And then even at the end, made some really bad choices. 3 straight throws, 2 of which almost got picked. I trust the Jets defense a little bit more than most people do, and I realize that's weird to say when I don't know who's running that defense right now. But like you said, a lot of teams when they get a interim coach, there's just a spark about them for the first game, and then who knows about the rest. I think we're gonna see a spark, and I think the Jets get the win, which also means the Jets would be in first place of the AFC East, which is just hysterical that they went ahead and fired their coach right now when they're still in prime position to win this whole Super Bowl. I don't think they will, but I do think the Jets win Monday Night Football.
There we have it.
There we go. So we do have a difference. That being said, it's only one. So I will leave this week as your champion again. But again, we'll see. Do I make the lead 6 or is it only 4? Time can only tell. But definitely going to be a very fun, exciting week, both with college and NFL. And I'm definitely looking forward to watching as much football as I can. But if you have not yet, please like, subscribe, follow us on Facebook. And then with that guy right there, he's running Lights Out Trivia. Very fun league. Give those videos a watch because they are fun to watch, regardless of what technical difficulties there are. Still very fun. And he's also in the middle of a tournament right now. So tournaments are always fun too. But make smart choices. Wash your hands or don't. I really don't care. Not your dad. But I could be your papa.